I want to welcome you to this event today, which has been organised by the Applied Quantitative Methods Network, or AQMeN as we're known. It's part of the ESRC's week-long Festival of Social Science, and there are events going on right across the UK this week. The aim of the festival is to celebrate the wealth of social science research which exists in Britain. We really are a very lucky country in terms of our social science research. But particularly this festival aims at looking at ways in which this research can help to shape public policy. The inspiration for this particular event was a series of meetings that we held earlier this year between ourselves and representatives from local and central government and from the voluntary sector. AQMeN is really an organisation that's been set up to support academics. However, about 40% of our membership are non-academics, and we don't really make the distinction between academic and non-academic research. To us, it's all just research. But what was particularly telling was that amongst those researchers who were working in non-academic environments, there was a clear need to develop skills and strategies around policy evaluation. Around the same time, the Commission on the Future Delivery of Public Services, which was led and chaired by the late Sir Campbell Christie, to whom I think we should offer tribute today, published their report. And amongst many other things, the report highlighted that often effective challenge and external scrutiny is frustrated by poor data availability or the incompatibility of basic information about the costs, quality and performance of public services. Essentially, the Commission's vision was for central and local government to work in partnership with a wide range of stakeholders in order to ensure that the Scottish people receive the best quality services to improve social and economic well-being. And we hope that this event will draw attention to ways in which better data analysis and evaluation can ensure that outcome. In keeping with the role of AQMeN, which is a methods network, this programme today has a strong methodological theme and seeks to scrutinise the use of quantitative data, particularly in evaluating public service delivery, although we recognise there are many forms of evaluation, not all of which are quantitative. We've brought together a range of experts in the field who will explore the issue of evaluating effectiveness of public services from a variety of perspectives, and that's both at the national and the local level. I hope you will agree we really have an excellent set of speakers on the programme today from right across the UK, and we're very, very grateful for all your contributions. I'm just going to summarise briefly the programme. First this morning, we're going to consider issues at the national level, and we'll hear from Dr. Louise Scott about the role of current Scottish Government's approach to evaluation and the paradigm shift in the way in which effectiveness has come to be understood and therefore measured. We'll also hear from Dr. Erica Wimbush about the gradual shift in the approach to evaluation in the case of Health Scotland, with reference to some specific examples. Later this morning, after the coffee break, we'll return to the thorny methodological issues about good research design and data requirements in evaluation research, and Dr. Rhys Andrews will discuss regional variation in public service effectiveness, which in the wake of devolution I think is a particularly important issue, and Professor Peter Elias will pay particular attention to the importance of data generation, availability and quality. This afternoon, we'll turn to some of the issues evaluating initiatives at the local level. Professor Anna Vignol will use an example of academic performance in schools to illustrate some of the advantages, but also the many challenges of using administrative data to evaluate success. And Dr. Susan Purden will be here to explore the theoretical and practical constraints of trying to develop methods that allow effective statistical assessment of local initiatives, which often have common aims but very different approaches. Finally, this afternoon we will receive some information about practical sources of advice and support that are available for those of us who are engaged in evaluation. Ricky Eversholt will demonstrate freely available software, data visualisation tools rather, that can improve the ways in which evaluation data are communicated, particularly to policy audiences. And Stephen Marwick will provide some helpful advice based on his engagement with voluntary organisations about what to do if quantitative evaluation is simply not possible. So we have a very packed programme. I will chair the session this morning, and my colleague Lindsay Patterson will chair this afternoon. I think we'll be ruthless with time to make sure everything runs according to plan. Before I introduce the first two speakers this morning, who are looking rather worried now, Just a few housekeeping announcements. Toilets, if you haven't already found them, are just through that door on your right. Fire exits are to the rear of the room, and also there's a little sneaky one just round the corner here if we have to run for it at any point. Lunch will be served in the area where you had coffee, so you don't have too far to go. If you could please switch off mobile phones or turn them to silent. I only just remembered to do that a couple of minutes ago myself. For those of you who find your fingers twitching uncontrollably at the prospect of telling the world about what you're hearing today, there are some tweet seats at the back which you're welcome to use if you want to translate what you're hearing. And finally, in case you haven't had enough of evaluation by the end of the day, we do have an evaluation form which you would have been handed when you got your programme this morning. That particular evaluation form is for us to return to the ESRC, who are really evaluating the Festival of Social Science as a whole. However, for our own purposes, we will also be sending out a very short evaluation form electronically after the event, which is for AQMeN's purposes. And the reason we want to do a separate evaluation is, first of all, because we have to demonstrate to our funders that we're actually providing events that people find beneficial. But more importantly than that, the real reason for trying to organise an event like this was to identify what training needs people who are doing this kind of evaluation felt they needed. And so part of the evaluation form that we'll be sending out electronically is asking you what kind of a training you would find beneficial, and from that we will be developing a training course probably into 2012. So hopefully that's a good enough incentive to complete our form too.